making the ice cream, can I just ask you to get the ice cream, pop it into your fridge. So from the freezer into the fridge. And what that's going to soften it in order to make the brown bread ice cream. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, a minute to do that. And then we can start. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is the brownie preparation. So it's very straightforward. Basically with brownies, there's two key things. The one is the ingredients. Without stating the obvious, the better the ingredients are, the better the brownie is. Now, there's obviously loads and loads of recipes out there for brownie. This is a really, really great one. And as I said, I think the better the ingredients, the better the brownie. So today we're using green and blacks, but you can use anything like Lindt. Waitrose do also a really, really good own-name brand. And the idea with the brownie is basically you're mixing up your butter and your chocolate, so your fats, and your eggs and your sugar. So the first thing we need to do is melt the chocolate and the butter. So you just take your block, you give it a smack, it feels quite satisfying, and that goes into a jug or a bowl. So you need to have a double boiler for this, or you can do this in the microwave. So little pieces of chocolate go in. And with brownie, it's all to do with ratio. So the equal amounts of your sugar and your chocolate. Not to confuse if you are doing just chocolate and butter. So we are using 300. Let me just double check. Got the right amount. It's a lot of chocolate. We are using, just bear with me, it's 350 grams. So the green and blacks, I have noticed rather cheekily, they've gone down from a 100-gram block to a 90-gram block. So it's just under 4 blocks. Give that a break. Laurie's just bought some foil, another piece as well. You need to be careful of that. That's out. Okay, so the other thing that's really important with brownie is obviously quality of ingredients. The second thing, which is really key, is the cooking of the brownie. So that's going to very much determine on what oven you've got and what size of tray. We'll talk through exactly when to take the brownie out the oven. But the difference, they say the difference between a brownie and a chocolate cake is the cooking. An overcooked brownie then becomes chocolate cake. So what you really want to do is you want to slightly undercook that, but we will go through that process. So that's the chocolate. I'm just going to throw that away. And then the butter. So 250 grams of butter. So this recipe is not for the faint-hearted. It's going to make probably, well, I guess depending on what size brownies you're making for someone really greedy, probably 2 portions. But really, you want to probably get at least, I would say, 16 generous portions. So chocolate and butter into a bowl and then into a double boiler. So that's going to go onto the stove now, and it'll probably take about 5 minutes to melt. And you can pop that in the microwave as well. Just be careful. You don't heat it up too much. You don't want that chocolate to burn. Excellent. So the other thing we need to do now, the other side of the coin, is the eggs and the sugar. So the recipe calls for 350 grams of dark brown sugar. Dark brown sugar is going to give it a lovely molasses flavor. Really delicious. So if you compare it to, say, castor or golden brown sugar, that's really good. So it's a soft brown sugar. You can use muscovado sugar as well. And then 4 whole eggs. So you'll notice, this recipe, what a shell in there. This recipe doesn't use a lot of flour. The flour of the cocoa powder tends to make it almost more of a cakey consistency. This is going to be a really dense, rich brownie. Okay, excellent. Now, the part of this, what you really want to do now is you want to whisk the eggs and the sugar together, and you want to get what they call a sabayon in chef terms. It just basically makes it light and it thickens it as well. You will notice as you start mixing it, there'll be a lightness in color as well. And this process probably takes about 2 or 3 minutes. So I won't be talking, I'll keep quiet for that amount of time, and we're going to just blitz it, and I'll tell you when it's ready. But if you can start now, just mixing your sugar and your eggs.
So whilst he's doing that, everyone, just remember the chat. If you've got any questions, just write them on there and we'll ask Ian. So if you know how to do that, it's just down the bottom. Lovely.
Or do you have a bit of the chocolate in the butter so it's good? Right, well that's making you can give your chocolate and butter a quick stir just to make sure it's melting nicely. Carry on. Okay, perfect. So what you can see there is that mix is now got nice and thick. It's what they call a ribbon stage, and it's got a lot lighter in color. It's a nice caramelly color. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to quickly jump to the brown bread ice cream while our chocolate and our butter is melting. And then we'll come back to the brownie and then we'll finish off the ice cream. So that goes to one side. Right, now the brown bread ice cream. So basically this is a kind of a cheat dessert because you are making this ice cream yourself, but you are using bought-in ice cream. You can use any ice cream, definitely vanilla would be a better way to go because you basically have all your flavors in your bread. I was telling Laurie earlier on, the first time I made this was about 30 years ago, and it was for some friends who were living in Cape Town, South Africa, and they're actually on air tonight watching. So, weird coincidence. Anyway, so the bread, what you really want to do is break that up into nuggets. I've started cutting this. You can break those up with your fingers, and you want pieces that sort of size. Phil, can you zoom in on that? That sort of size. Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. So you can cut them up, but it's quite nice just to have regular pieces. Whole wheat bread is a lot better than white, simply because it's got more texture. It'll have more crunch once your bread is cooked. So the idea behind this is basically you're adding melted butter, sugar, cinnamon, and you're going to pop that in the oven to get those really nice and crispy. So we break those up. It's 150 grams. I noticed actually when I was buying ice cream only gets sold in liter tubs. I think maybe the some of the small tubs are 500. So you could definitely double this recipe up. I'm actually using sourdough bread. I think that's got it's denser. It's going to give you a better crunch as well. And you basically break that up into pieces. There we go. I see someone still mixing the Sabayon. There we go. Break that up. Right. So to this we're going to add 30 grams of melted butter. So we're going to I'll just tear that up. Yeah, so this is a great recipe. I mean, I made it ages ago. It's just something slightly different, but really, really delicious. It kind of takes you down a kind of a Ben and Jerry's route. So, yeah, it's really, really nice. So that's that. So there we go. So that's your bread. I'm just going to quickly melt some butter now. So this is not an exact science. I might just take a little bit more off. That's probably maybe about 40 grams. Pop that in a pot to melt. And then what you want to do You actually can make this in a frying pan if you want to. Popping it in the oven is just that much easier. You can kind of forget about it. So, into a bowl. There we go. And the next thing you're going to add is your sugar. So how much sugar did I say? So I had a mixture of caster and dark. Look, if you wanted to, you probably use both, either one or the other. The caster sugar is fine. It'll melt a bit quicker onto the bread, and then the crunch from the brown sugar. So it is in total 80 grams of sugar. So that's going to go straight on to your bread. And then a little bit of cinnamon. So get that butter. Cinnamon, once again, it depends how strong you like it. I'm going to put probably almost a full teaspoon in there, and that's going to give you a nice Christmas flavor. So cinnamon goes in, and then the butter. Let me try, I'll put about 30 grams in. There we go. And you just give that a good mix. Give it a really, really good stir. You don't really want it, you don't need to saturate your breadcrumbs. It's nicely coated. I want a little more butter. So I've probably got about 40 in there. Then right, and that's going to go in onto a tray and then straight into your oven. What you really want to do is want to cook these so they're nice and golden brown. So I would say put the oven on 180 and we'll have a look after 7 minutes. But those are what your crumbs should be looking like, just like that. Can you see that? Excellent. So into the oven. As I said, if your oven is not fan assisted, 10 degrees higher, so 190. But yeah, I'll go, let's start in 7 minutes and then we can take it from there. How's that looking? Right, so we're going to wait a few more minutes just for our butter and our chocolate. How's everyone's butter and chocolate? Let's see, the Hardings are busy at work, are they? Excellent. So we're going to just wait a few more minutes. Okay, so what we can do is we can add, we can put the sabayon into a larger bowl. That can go in. There we go. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is your cooking container for the brownie. As I said in the instructions, for the size of tray, that's really, really important. I said 30 by 20. You don't want to go smaller than that. What you want is a nice fat brownie, but the thinner it is, the faster it'll cook, the more chance you've got of it overcooking. So that's my tray. That's probably just slightly larger than that, but it's absolutely perfect. This is kind of a standard half-size oven tray. You want to grease that. You can use a non-stick spray. And then you can, if you want, you can line that with baking parchment, which I'm going to do. So I have got that in the ingredients, and all you want to do is you want to pop that in the base. Like I said, if you've got a non-stick tray, that's absolutely fine. You won't need the baking parchment, but just to be sure of your brownie not sticking, you want to just line that with a bit of paper. Take off the excess. There we go, and then a little snip down the side so we can tuck that nice and neatly. Okay, so just with the brownie cooking, I've got it in here 20 minutes at 180. Now, that temperature should stay the same, but the time does vary, and it varies on how efficient your oven is, and also the temperature of your eggs. All those sort of things play a big part. So the rule of thumb is, the minute you can start smelling your brownie, that's when you know it's just about ready. And what you really want from your brownie is you want a very slight wobble. So when you give that tray a shake, that's when you know it's basically done. So I will show you when we cook this, but I wanted to just give you the heads up. So That's very important. The other thing is when you're baking cakes, very often they say as soon as you put a skewer and it comes out clean, then your cake is ready. I would say that's when your brownie is slightly overcooked. So just to bear in mind, if you do put a skewer in and it comes out sticky, absolutely perfect. But like I say, we'll probably look after about 17 minutes just to have a quick squiz. I am going to hand over to Laurie in a minute just to do her cake. And I will just interject as soon as the brownie comes out the oven. So let's just quickly finish off our brownie mix. So then we have our sabayon. So that you want to add your chocolate and your butter. And as you see, they come together beautifully. They're obviously both high in fat. And that goes in. Does anyone have any questions about brownies? I know there's so many recipes out there that are really, really good. This is one I've just found that seems to work very, very well. Does anyone have any questions? No?
Doesn't look like it. Busy cooking.
Cool. Okay, so we're now going to add to this, we're going to add some dried cranberries. That's because that's that Christmas touch. Sour cherries are also delicious, but you can actually add any dried fruit. Raisins, sultanas, dried apricots. That goes in, it's 100 grams. And then pecan nuts. So, did I mention pecan nuts? So I've put the chopped pecan nuts. Yesterday I was cooking the pecan nuts, I would toast them just to get ahead. And I actually burnt the whole lot. So I had to use what we had at home, which is cashew nuts. So that's just to say with brownie, you can use any nuts you fancy. Hazelnuts, walnuts, pecan nuts, pistachios, pine nuts, all the same. I'm using toasted cashew nuts and I'm going to pop them in whole. In there goes 200 grams. And then the next thing is all your Christmas flavors. So cinnamon, I'm going to probably put in about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Depends how much of that sort of Christmassy flavor you want to come through. So half a teaspoon of all the spices will give a nice subtle flavor. If you wanted something slightly stronger, punchier, then you put a bit more in. So half a teaspoon ginger, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, in a go, and then nutmeg. You don't have too much nutmeg, no more than half a teaspoon. In that goes. And then vanilla. There we go, a teaspoon of vanilla. Then the most important thing, would you believe, in chocolate brownie, and dare I say it, I'm an ambassador of Malden sea salt, is a good pinch of salt. And salt definitely does bring out the flavor of your brownie. You know, there's always a risk with cakes making it taste salty, but the salt really makes the chocolate flavor become punchier. So definitely a really important ingredient. And then the final ingredient is your baking powder and plain flour. So that you need to sift, and that goes straight into your bowl. Just like that. So really, really easy to put together. And then all you want to do is give that a good mix. So just slowly turn the bowl and turn that round like that. There we go. What you don't really want to do now is use a beater. That is our breadcrumb mix. To the quick swizz. Yeah, that's perfect. I'm going to grab that out the oven. I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So, Phil, can we get a zoom in on that? So that's your breadcrumbs, or your brown bread. So it's looking to be quite soft, and it basically now needs to cool completely before we're going to mix that into the ice cream. But it obviously at the moment it smells delicious. You've got the demerara sugar that's sort of crystallized around the bread, and that's going to go into your ice cream. So you need to let that cool down completely. But that's basically with 7 minutes. I think that's bang on. You could do possibly a little bit longer if your oven is not as hot, but otherwise that's perfect. So, just to finish with the brownie. So what I wanted to mention with the brownie is you don't want to be using your beaters for this, and you want to be quite gentle when you stir it in. You've got a little bit of air in there from mixing your eggs and sugar, but you want to make sure that's well mixed in. There we go. And that goes straight into your dish, just like that. The beauty of brownie is that it freezes down really, really well. So if you are planning on having this for Christmas, it's fantastic. It's very forgiving. Obviously, you just take it out the day before, and then at room temperature for at least 2 hours. There we go. That'll be for you and Jane to discuss. And Laurie as well. Well, actually, to be fair, I had to do a blue pita today, and I made it yesterday. So we've got a double batch of brownies. So there's plenty to take up, and that's it. So just to reiterate, that's going to go in the oven 180. We're going to have a squiz in about 17 minutes. I'm going to have to interrupt Laurie when she's doing her cake, but just to show you what we're looking for. So as I said, it's worth having a look after 15 minutes. The top's going to glaze over. It's going to get slightly crusty. And what you want to do is just take your oven cloth and just give the tray, this tray or the shelf in your oven a little knock, and you want to see a slight wobble. But as I said, a good telltale sign that your brownie is just about ready is when you can start to smell it. So that's going to go in the oven, 180 for 20 minutes, but we're going to check at 17. Excellent. So that's that for the meantime. I'm going to hand over to Laurie.
Hello.
I'm going to hand over to Laurie, and as soon as that brownie is ready, I will let you know.
Excellent. Thank you, Ian. Phil and I and Jenny are looking forward to that a bit later.
Oh, this is exciting. So, the next stage of the Christmas cake. How did they go? Did they cook well? Did they look good? Did they smell good? I've got to say, I love cooking Christmas cake purely for the smell in my kitchen. And I know David and Marge are cooking theirs today. They made theirs today and cooking it right now as we speak.
Fran says hers was good. She put thumb up
Good.
for hers. Yep,
Brilliant.
yep.
Right, well, I don't know, is anybody actually marzipaning their cake now?
Yes.
Yes, right, good. Okay, well, I've got
Well,
mine.
we are in our house. Is anybody else? Give me a thumbs up if you're marzipaning now. Hardings, Rachel, yes, Richard. Yeah, there's a few. Yeah.
Okay.
Pauline, she's doing it. Yeah, there's a few.
All right.
Lovely.
So you need a board, and you're going to put your cake onto the board. Now, if you look carefully, I don't know if Phil can get this, at the cake, you will see that mine is perfectly flat on the top. How have I achieved that? I've turned it upside down. So this is actually a bottom, because when we're icing the cake, we want it to be flat. So what I've done is I've taken it out of the wrapping, and we've cut it. If there was any peaked bit, there wasn't really, but just to make it really level underneath, just sliced a little bit off the top, turned it on, put it on the cake, and any crumbs I've used to push in at the side to fill any gaps there. And if there are more gaps, you can always use marzipan to do that as well. Because what we're going to aim for is a smooth top and smooth sides. The first thing I'm going to do is the bit with the marzipan. So I'll put that to one side. So you just need some icing sugar. As you know, when you roll out pastry, you need to stop the pastry sticking to the table and to the rolling pin, and we need to stop that too. But you're not going to use flour because we're not cooking this. So we're going to use icing sugar. And I'm going to put a bit of that on the work surface. Just sprinkle a bit. And then I've got my marzipan. And what you need to do with the marzipan is mould it a bit. You need to just pummel it a bit, knead it a bit with the palm of your hand, and that will stop it cracking when you roll it out. It needs to be a little bit more pliable than it is when it just comes out of the foil. So I'm assuming that those of you who are doing it right now will be doing that, getting out of the foil, pop it onto your icing sugar, and then just like when you're kneading bread, using that part of your hand, push down, pull it back, and just work it a little bit. And the only thing you're doing here is just to soften it, as I said, make it more pliable. So that will take about 30 seconds to do that. And you'll be able to feel it getting softer as you do that. What you want to end up with is a circle, because it won't magically go into the shape you want. You are in control of it, it's not in control of you. So you have to shape it. So having kneaded it a little bit, I'm now just going to make it into that circular shape, because my cake's circular. Now for a 20 centimetre cake, you need about a 30 centimetre diameter, a circle to go over the top of your cake. So I'm just going to get that going. So I'm using my hands to shape it, make it smooth. What we don't want is any cracks at all showing. And the other thing you don't want is any crumbs in your marzipan either. Now, lots of people say they don't like marzipan. It's quite a distinctive flavour. The reason we put it on the cake is to stop the brown colour from the cake going into the white icing. And the reason we're doing it a few days before, well, actually a week here, but you need to do it at least about 4 days before you put the icing on, is to let it dry out a bit so that the oils from the marzipan, because obviously it's nuts, it's made from almonds, the oil from the marzipan doesn't seep into the icing either. Right, so I've got my marzipan, my rolling pin. Now, when you're rolling it, as when you're rolling pastry, you only roll in one direction. You don't move, the dough moves, so the paste here, the marzipan paste moves. So I'm just going to roll it backwards and forwards a couple of times and then turn it, a quarter turn round. Get some icing sugar underneath. Keep it in that circular shape with your hands. As I said, it won't magically go into a circle. You have to do that. So a couple of rolls, stop, turn it, and you're going to do that until it's a nice circle to go onto the cake. Stop. We don't want it sticking to the table, so every few rolls, give it a turn. Just a quarter turn. Keep picking up some icing sugar as you go. Keep it in a circle. A bit more on the rolling pin. And turn it. Now what you're aiming for is about 3 to 4 millimeters thickness, about the thickness of a pound coin. That's what you always say with pastry and a paste here. Now I did say to get a measure, and I said about 30 centimetres. I'm actually going to use my rolling pin as my guide. So if when the diameter's that big, I know that's right. So I'm just going to keep going until then. I'm just going to stop a second. What I possibly should have said before, because I've done mine, I'm afraid, is about heating the apricot jam. I did say the cheaper the better, and the reason I said that is because when it's cheap, you don't tend to get any lumps of apricot in there, which you don't want. So I've heated mine in the microwave. I added a tablespoon of water to 2 tablespoons of jam, and then I've heated it in the microwave to soften it down, and then I'm going to brush that over the cake. So mine's ready. I don't know if yours is, and whether that's going to be a nuisance, sorry.
How long did you put it in the microwave for?
I just put mine in for, well actually I did it for 30 seconds and another 30 seconds, but it could be 30 seconds. Don't put the lid in.
You'll have a little explosion.
Now Ian might need to stop me as well.
Maybe good.
You okay?
Yeah.
Right, my circle is now looking a bit like an oval, so I've got to get it into a circle. But it's looking very smooth, so that's good. So the apricot jam gives a nice finish, traditional finish, and it sticks the marzipan to the cake. And once it gets a bit big, you don't want to be pulling it up because it might tear, so you need to actually use the rolling pin to take the weight of the paste. So I'm just going to flip it over like that now to turn it. And then I think that might be it. So I've got my circle, and then I'm going to just brush my cake, which I've got on the board. As I said, I've got the bottom bit up so it's really nice and flat. Am I going too fast? Am I going too fast, Jane?
Let's have a little look. How are the Hardings doing? Oh, they're apricotting. Oh, how are you doing, Pauline? Oh, yeah, fingers down. She's not ready yet.
Okay.
I think she's waiting for her apricot to melt
To
a
heat
little
up,
bit.
yeah.
Yes.
If there's any lumps, they need to be sieved out as well.
Right.
You don't want a big lump of apricots in there.
Okay, we're doing.
So I'm using a pastry brush to brush my cake.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And it doesn't have to be too thick, just enough to go on the top, around the sides.
Right. How are you doing now, Pauline? Yes, we got a thumbs up from Pauline, so I think we're all right now.
Are they smelling good? That's what I want to know.
What are they smelling like, people?
Are
Yeah,
they smelling
Rachel
of
says
loads of
yes.
brandy?
Yeah. Oh, the brandy, yeah. Paul was, he didn't want to miss a Saturday when he could pour in the brandy. That's all I can say. We had to make sure we did it weekly.
Right. I'm going to be ready to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is to roll my paste over the rolling pin. Just flip it over. And then I'm going to lift it over the cake and then unroll it. And then you've got to use your hands because you're going to smooth it down, and your hands are really important now. We want to get a nice shiny surface, we want to get a nice flat surface. So we're going to be rubbing the cake all over and gently, really gently, just pushing it down so it fits the shape of the cake, and you get nice flat sides as well. So gently skirting the cake. Push it right down onto the board, and we're going to cut that other bit off. And hopefully no one's got any cracked surface. So using your hands to make sure you don't get any folds over. It's got to be nice and smooth. Because this is the base for your icing next week. There's some amazing smells here, I've got to say. That brownie's starting to smell.
That looks great, Laurie. Goodness, that looks like perfect.
So making sure that you've got no air bubbles underneath, making sure it's nice and smooth. And then you're going to need a sharp knife. Keep slightly away from the base of the cake and slightly on an angle, so we're going to cut in, and we can always push that, any little bits of marzipan that are left over, you can always push it in, but if it's taken too high, that's going to cause a problem. So just cut slightly away from the cake. making sure it's pushed in. And going round, following the shape of the cake. Just pushing it down, so I don't want to have any bits of cake showing. Now you may well need some marzipan, and you can make some lovely things. You can make some marzipan fruits with any spare bits. You can use them for decorations as well. And it will last. You can just cover it with foil and cling film and foil and keep it. And then you just push that bit in. And then that is ready for next week. So we're going to let that dry out. I will cover it with some foil after a bit. And then it's ready for the icing next week. Are there any questions?
I don't think so as yet. How are you all getting on? Oh yeah, I can see some in the picture. Michelle, that's looking lovely. Look at that.
I can see some lovely flat surfaces, got
Yeah.
to say.
Oh, look at that. I'm sorry, I don't know your name because it just says fire tablet, but that looks great as well. Let's see how many. Are you doing yours, Rachel? You got a little helper there. Oh yeah, look, there's Rachel's. Yes. Great. Oh, these are looking excellent. This is very good. It's getting very exciting. Oh, let's see yours. Lucy, show us yours again. I missed it. Oh,
Do
yes.
use your hands to
Very good.
press it down and to make it really smooth.
It's one of those jobs that you're never quite satisfied with it, is it?
I agree, yeah.
Everybody's doing great.
Right,
Perfect timing.
brilliant.
Excellent. Great. Let's have a look at our brownie quickly.
It is smelling so
So that's
lovely.
been 15 minutes. Phil, can you zoom in on that? Let's have a squiz. So, come a bit closer. So, if you look at that, it's got a little bit of a wobble to it. And it feels on the outside. So the outside will obviously set before the center. But I think that, taken out the oven now, will be absolutely perfect. So I did make one yesterday, as I said. It was 17 minutes bang on. I think this has probably had about 16. That is a commercial oven, so it probably runs a bit more efficiently. But I would say that's absolutely perfect. So I'm going to take that out now. The key part of brownie, yes, Jen?
Sorry, we've just got one message. Is there any alternatives to marzipan because somebody has a nut allergy?
Ah, can you get a nut-free marzipan? No, you can't.
No.
Could that be a double layer of icing, maybe?
Double layer of icing.
Double layer of icing.
Double
So,
layer,
yeah.
Fran. Double layer. That would work very well.
Okay, so that's the brownie now. Obviously, the temptation now is to cut ourselves a big wedge. The key part now is just to leave it to rest. It'll probably take about half an hour to cool down and carry on cooking. And then you really want to, if you can resist temptations, pop that in the fridge and let that get set and get that firm for cutting. So I've actually done one, as I said yesterday, which I'll show you. So I'll pop that to one side. Great, so here's yesterday's. I'm going to take this out of the paper, put that upside down, and that because of the amount of fat, chocolate, etc., all nice things, it's nice and firm now. It's going to make cutting all the more easier. So if you want to be, so this obviously, from a chefy side of things, you can use a ruler to cut it. And it's obviously dependent on what sort of size you want, but I'll just show you what the inside of that looks like. It's quite firm. As I said, it freezes down beautifully and it's very forgiving. So I'll cut 2 pieces so you can have a squiz. These rulers always help. You can pick these up from WH Smith's, the metal rulers. They can go in the dishwasher to get clean. If you want to cut nice clean pieces. It's obviously going to be quite rich as well. You don't want a huge piece. There we go. And that there is what your brownie will look like. Let's stack that up. So chilled, you cut it and then leave it at room temperature. Phil, can we get a zoom in on that guy there? That is really yummy. So you can see with that slight sheen like that, that it's perfectly cooked. It's not too overcooked. It hasn't got dry. And then in about an hour's time, I mean, if you wanted, you could pop that in the microwave to warm up, but literally cut that when it's chilled and then leave that for a couple of hours. And that is your cooked brownie. Really nice recipe. As I said, freezes down beautifully. And so I've got out of there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 2 pieces per person. Yeah, I'm probably looking at about 10 portions from there. So that is the brownie. On to the ice cream. All right, just wipe that. Now I'm going to do a quick wipe. So your ice cream should now have softened quite nicely in the fridge. I'm going to get a big bowl. One thing you've got to bear in mind is that we are taking out some of the ice cream and we're adding the brown bread mix. So you probably want to have a few tablespoons while you're working just to make space for that brown bread. It's a good excuse to eat some. So as you can see, those are cooled down nicely now and they've got a nice clatter to them. I'm just going to scrape this off. There we go. In it goes. And then now for the ice cream. So I've used a soft serve ice cream, which is absolutely fine for this sort of thing. This is a litre tub. I would probably say the recipe I originally gave for this amount of breadcrumbs is 500. I'd probably say in terms of ratios, because you don't want too much ice cream and where you can't feel the bread, and you don't want too much bread where you feel like you're having a slice of sweet toast. So I'm probably going to add, as I said, a kilogram, I'm probably going to put in 700 grams. As you can see now, it's nice and soft. And then what I'll do with the leftover ice cream, I'll put that in the bowl. So the key part of this is the ice cream is that you don't want it to get completely soft. You still want it to be nice and chilled. It's a nice clatter, and all you do now is you mix it through. As you do that, the bread will break down a little bit more, which is absolutely fine. Makes a nice crunching sound. And obviously you can take this one step further. You can put fudge pieces in, chocolate chip pieces, some raw cookie dough, and that's basically that. So you don't have that out the freezer for too long. Straight back into the container. And this will stay in the freezer, obviously, well, forever. But what you want to do is basically, I would say, eat it within a week. Your breadcrumbs will start, or your bread pieces will start to soften after about a week. They'll have less crunch to them. Like it's popped in. Can I just get a spoon? And I think that's going to taste really, really delicious, really yummy, and just something slightly different. But once you've made it, please let me know what you think. So it's been ages since I made that. Straight back in the freezer, and you probably want to make that the day before because you don't want that too soft. And that is it, brown bread ice cream. Any questions?
Can't believe how easy that is.
Very
Ian.
easy, very impressive as well. And that's it. It's got that kind of homemade feel to it. So not strictly true, not 100% true, but 90%.
Yeah, who would I just didn't even click, you know, you don't think about just adding to existing ice cream. Right, any questions, anybody? Let's have a little looky how they're getting on. Well, no, I think, look, you see what's happening? That you're turning them all into professional chefs now. They don't even have any questions anymore. They're getting so good at it all. Right then, look at that. And we've 17 minutes past 5.
That's it.
How
it's good
about
time.
that? So,
And we've covered the cake as well.
yeah.
So just with the icing, just for next week, so basically what you want to go for is the ready-made fondant icing. We picked this up from Sainsbury's. I've got a kilo block. I think that's going to be plenty and enough for you to make some extra decorations. Jen will send an email up, but what we need for next week are some star cutters and some shiny gold balls, the little ones for decoration. And that's for next week.
Excellent. So I'll send an email, but get looking if you're popping into the shops. So the little tiny gold balls and the star cutters and icing sugar. So that'll be nice and easy, won't it?
Yeah, super easy, super effective as well.
So
Really
we're
nice
going
cake.
to roll it here. So can they buy the rolled if they want to, or
Yes,
better
absolutely.
not to?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Okay, lovely. All right then, everybody. If you haven't got any questions, Laurie
She's hiding on the corner.
she's hiding around the corner. There we are. Let's give them a wave, shall we, everybody? There you go. Lovely.